Natalie Parker grows up in Arizona's foster system after being abandoned at birth. Her closest friend is Vanessa, a fellow foster child born with a heart defect who clings to a gold rose pendant from infancy. Natalie builds a stable life, marries Christopher Parker, and is embraced by his parents, Deborah and William. A chance glimpse of Vanessa's pendant triggers Deborah's hidden past. Decades ago, as a young nurse, she helped separate abandoned newborn twins, adopting the boy and leaving the girl with only that pendant. Natalie overhears and fears she and Christopher are siblings. The truth unfolds: Vanessa is the twin. This revelation fractures and then begins to rebuild the family as they confront guilt, loss, and the possibility of healing. The wind chimes are talking again. Natalie stands in the doorway with a paper sack pressed to her chest, ink bleeding through where a carton of berries sweated against salt and heat. Deborah calls from the kitchen, "Sweetheart, shoes off, floor's just been mopped," and a laugh floats with the steam of something cinnamon. The house smells like lemons and memory. It makes her shoulders drop in a way they never did in state apartments with buzzing lights and doors that slammed too loud. She bends to untie her sneakers and the bag gives up. Papers, a roll of stickers for her students, a pencil that snaps against the tile, and a small velvet pouch that slips, sighs, and surrenders its secret. A gold rose, delicate and stubborn, spins once in a ribbon of evening sun and stops, petal to light. Deborah's voice doesn't reach her at first. When it does, it's thinner. "Where did you get that?" Natalie cups it, like a moth she can't let the air bruise. "It's not mine. It's Vanessa's. My friend from the Homes." The oven timer beeps, lonely and insistent. Deborah doesn't move to silence it. Her hand grips the chair back as if the room has turned to water. "From where?" "Since she was a baby," Natalie says, trying for breezy, trying not to notice William in the doorway, polite enough to pretend he didn't hear the fear. "It's just a sentimental thing." The timer stops. The chime outside keeps talking, 3 notes, then 1. Later, after the pie and the gentle ritual of dishes, after William tells the same fishing story and Deborah pretends it's new, Natalie sits in the garden while the desert pretends it has no teeth. Marigolds flag the path, little suns on stems. "They keep pests away," Deborah always says. Natalie liked that. A flower that could guard. Her phone buzzes. A photo, Vanessa, hair in a messy knot, Harper asleep against her chest, the pendant like a tiny lock over a heartbeat. "Rough day," the text says. "But we made it." Natalie types and erases, leaves it at a heart. When she comes back inside, the house is quieter than sleep. Deborah is at the table, elbows on wood, an old woman's prayer beginning at her fingers. William stands with the refrigerator open, light on his face, a square of cold. "I'll head out," Natalie says, and doesn't. The wind chimes give an answer the humans can't translate. In the car, she doesn't turn the key. She holds the pendant up, the way a teacher shows a found treasure to a room of kids who'll decide what it means. A rose, a symbol. Or a key if there is a lock. Across town, Vanessa clicks off a lamp and misses the way the room shapes itself back into dark. The pendant's weight is familiar. So is the ache. She thinks of the first social worker who called it pretty and wanted to fasten it again when the baby cried. She thinks of all the hands that let go. Natalie closes her fist around the gold and promises nothing. Only that tomorrow, she will ask why Deborah's voice had fear in it when nothing was supposed to hurt anymore. The wind chimes say, promises are a kind of door. The next day is a teacher's Thursday. Glue on fingers, a lost shoe, a spelling quiz that turns into a drawing lesson because Anna cries when she can't make a lowercase g behave. Natalie is good at making smaller storms pass. "Try this," she says, guiding a pencil. "Your hand remembers what your mind forgets." The kids copy her shape and believe. It is a kind of miracle. You draw a loop and the letter appears. At lunch, the staff room is a chorus of microwaves. Natalie sets her yogurt beside last week's flyer for a supply drive and scrolls to Vanessa's name. Typing dots. Stop. Typing dots. Stop. She sends, "You okay?" and gets back, always, "You," which means no. After school, she drives muscle memory roads out past the city's edge where the Parker house holds the horizon in both hands. Deborah is pruning marigolds, a small plastic bucket at her feet, the sun turned copper at the edges. You'll scare them if you cut too much, Natalie says. They like to be shocked, Deborah answers, smile tight. It tells them to bloom again. Inside, William has the game on mute, eyes flicking from ball to door. How are your kids? He asks. They think glitter is a food group. She puts the velvet pouch on the table like it belongs. Tell me what this is. The game holds the shape of a play on screen, frozen players never making the catch. William's mouth becomes a line. Deborah doesn't sit. She wipes clean a clean counter once, twice. It's a rose, she says. It sounds like a prayer or a plea. It's Vanessa, Natalie says. It's hers. Since forever. She hates it. She won't throw it away. She meets Deborah's eyes and sees the crack widen, a seam that won't go backward. Let us make you coffee, Deborah says, and Natalie shakes her head no. The refusal is a small earthquake. The house feels the shift. Later, a storm in the distance decides not to come. Natalie drives anyway, because motion is the only verb that feels honest. She hears all the old sentences in her head. Nobody is coming for you. Make your own luck. Be grateful. She's been all of those girls and none of them at once. She is someone who found a family and never wants to check the price. Vanessa's building leans the way tired things do. Inside, there's a small forest of laundry, a track of toy cars under the couch, a smell that is baby and chamomile. I'm fine, Vanessa says. I'm not fine. Tell me the not fine part. The foreman cut hours, which is almost funny, because I already have no time. Harper is teething. My chest is tight if I climb stairs too fast. But hey, she taps the pendant. At least I've got jewelry. Let me keep it a while, Natalie says. Safekeeping. She doesn't say why. Vanessa watches her and the years in group homes flicker between them like film splices. Trust, then doubt, then trust, then fine. Keep the curse. The pendant goes into the velvet dark. The two of them lean against the same wall, breathing like the desert before rain. Across town, the wind chimes sing the exact same 3 notes. The secret is born in a kitchen. Natalie hasn't meant to be quiet. She is meant to be brave. But when she pushes open the Parker door and hears nothing, she becomes a shadow without asking the house's permission. Voices arrive around the corner, low and urgent. Deborah's is a taut string that might snap. William's is gravel. I saw it, Deborah says. I saw it, Will. The rose. The exact one. It's been decades, William says. Memory makes ghosts. I didn't imagine giving it to her, Deborah answers, and the chair leg skids on tile. I put it around her neck because there was nothing else. Because we were saving one. Because I chose. Silence like a door slammed in a church. Natalie doesn't breathe, doesn't blink. The words arrange themselves into a shape she refuses to read. Chosen. Left. Twins. She holds the picture still in her mind, and it wobbles anyway. William again, softer. We did what we thought we could live with. We didn't live with it, Deborah whispers. We built a house on it. The wind pushes the chimes into a small aria. Natalie has the wild thought that if she steps forward, the note might hold everything together. Instead, she steps backward, heels careful on wood. The pendant in her bag has weight, a planet tugging at all her tides. In the car, she grips the wheel and not the truth. The stoplight turns green and stays green for a beat too long. She arrives home with a smile stapled to her face. Christopher is easy relief, all warm shoulders and day-old stubble, laughing about a truck that refused to start on sight. He kisses her temple. You look like the spelling test fought back. Something like that, she says. The lie tastes like copper. Sleep doesn't come. Ceiling lines become roads. Her mind becomes a whiteboard she can't erase. If Deborah's story is true, it writes itself with terrible clarity. Boy and girl, born together. Boy taken home. Girl given a necklace. Years and desert and chance and a wind chime, and here we are. Her chest aches with the impossible math. Love plus error equals what? She sits up before dawn and the room is a bruise. The pendant on the dresser winks, faithful as a star. She realizes she has always loved symbols because they don't change when you look at them. The people do. At school, she teaches symmetry and thinks about halves lost and found. She sends a text to Deborah and deletes it. She calls Vanessa and hangs up before the first ring. Evening finally arrives with the slow mercy of a bus that shows up. She drives back to the house with the garden. Deborah meets her in the doorway with a casserole dish and a face that's been crying. "Sweetheart," she says, and the word is a bridge to the place where one more secret won't fit. "Tell me," Natalie says. Deborah doesn't sit this time. She stands there and tells the whole thing in a single breath that lasts 30 years. Twins. A mother who signed without looking. A girl who was too fragile. A boy they could save. A necklace she couldn't not give, as if gold could weigh more than a future. When the breath ends, the room doesn't know how to hold the sound. Natalie swallows hard enough to cut. "Then I am," she begins, and Deborah shakes her head, misery and relief fighting for space. "The pendant isn't yours," Natalie says, almost laughing at the narrow miracle. "It's Vanessa's." Something breaks and something mends in the same second. There is no correct order for telling a man he's adopted and his sister has been sleeping on the other side of the city calling herself cursed. There is only the dining table, and Deborah's hand finding a napkin like it could fix anything, and William pouring water as if the act might confer steadiness. Christopher listens. He does not interrupt. His jaw does that thing where it looks like he'd rather carry the house than speak. "All my life," he says finally, not to anyone and to everyone. "All my life you could have told me." Deborah nods and refuses to wipe her tears. "Yes." "Why no?" "Because," she says. "Because the truth has a way of letting itself in." He looks at Natalie as if she might be the only clear window left. "And you're okay?" "I thought for a minute we were, but we're not," she says, the word catching like a burr. "It's Vanessa." He repeats her name like a place you find on a map and then can't unsee. "Vanessa." William has the address written in a neat hand by the phone. "We go now," Christopher says, and no one contradicts him. The casserole stays cooling, the game stays at halftime, the wind chimes find a new song for the road. The drive lays the city out like a confession. Deborah counts breaths. William counts turns. Natalie counts the number of times she and Vanessa stayed up and named a future. Not this, not that, maybe this. Christopher drives and tries to remember being born, which is impossible, but the mind attempts impossible things under pressure. They climb the stairs and the building smells like simmered onions and bicycles. Harper's squeal is the first honest sound of the morning when the door opens. Vanessa's face is a weather report. Storms likely, no umbrella. "Natalie," she says. "You brought the cavalry." "I brought a story we didn't ask to carry," Natalie answers. "We're going to put it down here, if you'll let us." They sit. Harper hands William a plastic spoon like an offering. Deborah, who has soothed 1,000 babies as a nurse and none with her own name on the bracelet, keeps her hands in her lap. Natalie begins in the middle, because beginnings are sometimes too sharp. A hospital. A young mother who did not stay. A decision that hid in the word mercy. A necklace that did not forget. Vanessa doesn't blink for a very long time. She touches the pendant hard enough to leave a mark on her skin. "No," she says, voice grainy with sleep and years. "Yes," she says, after the kind of pause where a person can fall and land or not. She looks at Christopher like a mirror has been hauled into the room. "And I don't know who I am yet," he says honestly. "But I am your brother." The room answers with quiet, which is not nothing. Deborah finally speaks the sentence she has been kneading in her chest like dough. "I failed you." She does not say but or if. "I failed you, and I am sorry until there's no breath left." Vanessa's mouth makes a bitter shape it learned years ago. Then Harper grabs the pendant chain and laughs, and something small in Vanessa's face releases. "I don't know how to do this," she says. "Any of it." "Stay for dinner," William says, because sometimes you need an act that can be accomplished. Start there. A marigold cannot stop a flood, but it can make a bee brave again. They walk toward a table. Forgiveness does not happen on command. It happens like rain in the desert, a promise, then nothing, then a sudden flood that remembers where the river used to be. The first weeks are clumsy. Deborah shows up with soups and apologies. Vanessa accepts the soups and leaves the apologies unopened on the counter. William picks up a broken step on the building's stairwell and fixes it with the kind of care you give a church pew. Christopher appears with a car seat, a second-hand stroller, a potted herb that will die in 2 days because the apartment window is stingy with sun. Natalie ferries doctor appointments into the calendar like lifeboats. At the clinic, a cardiologist draws the heart on a pad with quick strokes. "We'll manage this," she says. "You're not alone." Vanessa waits for the caveat that always comes and is disoriented when it doesn't. One afternoon, Natalie brings the pendant in its velvet pouch back to the Parker house and puts it on the table. "It has to mean something other than pain," she tells Deborah. "You gave it to her so she wouldn't be nothing." "I gave it to her instead of everything," Deborah says, honest like a cut. "Let me try again." They drive to a jeweler who specializes in careful work. The old woman behind the counter likes stories more than stones. "We can add a tiny hinge," she says, eyes magnified. "Make it open. Put a picture inside." "Of what?" Vanessa asks, doubtful but interested despite herself. "Of who?" The woman corrects gently. The day they pick it up, the desert air is a soft fist. The pendant opens with a click. Inside are 2 impossibly small photographs, a swaddled boy and girl, hospital caps tilted like crowns. No one took those photos that day 30 years ago. William found the boy's first picture in their keepsake box. Deborah begged a hospital archivist for a copy of the generic newborn image used for paperwork that matched the girl's date and time. "It's not proof. It's a placeholder for a truth no one photographed." Vanessa runs her thumb over the hinge. "It opens," she says, as if she never expected anything to. She fastens it around her neck and for the first time doesn't flinch. That evening, Christopher asks her to walk the Parker garden with him. The marigolds are indecently bright. "I wanted to know my sister when I was 8, he confesses. "I didn't know I wanted that. I wanted a person who'd get my stupid jokes without a map. I wanted to be the older brother. Or the younger. I didn't care. I wanted to be wanted," Vanessa says, and it's not bitter this time, just plain. She touches a marigold head, releases it. "I don't know if I can forgive them." "You don't have to yet." "What about you?" "I'm practicing," he says, and when she laughs, it sounds like relief arriving. They come back to find Deborah setting a new place at the table and Harper under it, giggling in fort. Vanessa watches Deborah's hands. They shake a little, but they're sure. "Stay," Deborah asks again, an ask that has a bed attached and a door that locks and a light that will be left on. "Just a while. Let us make space for you." Space is a real thing. It can be measured in doorways and in heartbeats. Vanessa nods. For now. The wind chimes, uninvited, approve. The guest room smells like laundry and lemon oil and something else Vanessa can't name. Harper claims the corner with the toys as if she built it. At night the house speaks in honest noises, a pipe clicking, a fridge settling back into quiet, wind writing its name across the porch. Vanessa lies awake the first night and counts her breaths and waits for the old ache to file a complaint. It shows up late and less sure of itself. In the morning, sunlight takes attendance on the hallway wall. Natalie makes pancakes like the ritual it is. William reads the paper and announces nothing at all, which is its own comfort. Christopher finds a tiny screwdriver to tighten a loose hinge on a cabinet that has been loose for 5 years. Deborah arranges a small vase of marigolds beside Vanessa's plate. "They keep the pests away," she says. "What if I'm the pest?" Vanessa asks, a smile almost there. "Then we'll keep you," Deborah says, voice unadorned. They don't talk that day about paperwork or DNA tests or the logistics of the past. They will. Some stories need scaffolding before they stand. Today is for Harper's laugh, for a pendant that opens, for pancakes and the way a house feels when it's trying very hard to be brave. Later, Natalie takes Vanessa to the school after hours. The classroom looks like a ship that ferries small people across impossible seas. "This is where I learned to belong," Natalie says, running a hand over a table carved with pencil ghost lines. "You always belonged," Vanessa says. "You just didn't always have a witness." They sit in the tiny chairs and are both suddenly 12, whispering promises in the dark. "We said we'd make our own family," Natalie reminds her. We did, Vanessa says, unexpected tears cooling fast on warm cheeks. Just took the long way. At dusk, they all end up on the porch without planning it. Harper falls asleep on Christopher's chest. William tells a new fishing story he swears is true. Deborah brings out a photo album and then thinks better of it and sets it aside. The wind chimes lift their small voices. The desert is a velvet curtain and the stars poke holes in it. Do you want to know her name? Deborah asks finally, meaning the girl who left. The one who signed the papers. Yes, Vanessa says, and then, after a beat, not tonight. Not tonight, Deborah agrees. She takes Vanessa's hand, not as a plea, but as an offering. The old woman's palm is warmer than Vanessa expected. Inside the pendant, the tiny faces do not change. Outside it, everything does. The house will have to learn where to hang the new photographs, how to tell the story in a way that leaves no one out. There will be rooms that echo before they find their furniture. There will be days the ache is loud. There will be a doctor's appointment where the news is good and another where it isn't, and people will show up for both. Night settles with a sigh. Natalie leans against the pillar and watches them all, the people she chose and the people who arrived by accident that turns out not to be an accident at all. She thinks of a birthday cake in a group home and a wish that was simply the word stay. She thinks of a necklace that learned how to open. She takes a breath that belongs to now and to the next thing. We're okay, she says, almost to herself. Out in the garden, the marigolds stand guard. The wind chimes play a small, stubborn song about what families do when the truth finally sits at the table. They make room. They pass the bread. They look one another in the eye. They stay,